Hello ladies and gents, and welcome back. Now, I'm opening up with a new feature, which I'm going to call the Irregular update, because I really can't guarantee when I can make videos, but I thought, especially considering the content of my last video, it's about time I showed my face again, just to explain what's going on. Now, the last few weeks have been pretty busy, work's got me by the balls, and as a consequence, my hobbies, my mapping have kind of taken a bit of a hit. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it's all over. I'm still going on as much as I possibly can. For those of you who've been watching the workshop for Company of Heroes 2, you would have noticed that I've made a slight return. Now, I'm still circuiting all the forums, especially on Koti.org, and I'm trying to help out where I can. But for the most part, I am mapping behind the scenes. I'm not going to be revealing as much stuff, I'm not going to be releasing as many maps, but there are definitely a lot of things going on. Now, in relation to the changes and the content I released recently, for those of you who didn't notice, Ostime has released the World War I mod at last. It was released back in the early days of modding, and he decided that there were too many things that needed changing, scrapped the whole lot, started from scratch, and it's come out quite nicely. Now granted, this is still a very early beta. I've tested it again today, and there are still some little niggling problems, but it's looking hopeful. It's looking like a really good mod to use. And for those of you who prefer things like infantry-only style game modes, perfect for you. In relation to that, I had a map that was lined up to be released with it, called Passchandaele. This has been basically on the back shelf now for about 2 months. So it's been ready to release, and as soon as the mod was released, I threw it out there because it was about time. So that is not something I've created recently, that's something that I left behind. I've been working on other projects in the meantime. But I am coming back to Company of Heroes. There's been a couple of things that have changed, which are kind of bringing me back into the fold, so to speak. But what I'll do is attach a link at the bottom for Ostime's mod and Passchandaele. I would heavily recommend you try them together. They're both in a beta phase, so they have a lot of things that need changing on them. But to give you a brief idea, the World War I mod is focused around changing all the teams almost back to what they were in Company of Heroes. The skins can't be changed yet because the mod tools don't allow it, but all the 4 teams at the moment are reverted back to what look like World War I style units, lots of influence by infantry and mortar fire, things that are more indirect, and basically only one heavy vehicle for each team. So it is entirely based around defences, building barbed wire, holding out wherever you can, and making gigantic pushes. In Passchandaele, which, for those of you who know your history, was a ruthless battle, very muddy, lots of water, and lots of trenches. The idea with the map is to force people into making very difficult decisions, to leave very good cover in order to gain the resources and advance when they need to. But as soon as you do advance, you're in dangerous circumstances. Water and mud will slow infantry, put them at risk, and can cost you everything. So it's definitely well worth trying the 2 of them together. Now, on top of changes that are happening for Company of Heroes 2, like I said, I am coming back to the mapping scene. An old friend of mine, Mirage, has got in contact with me again and saying that he wants to make some more stuff, so I am happy to. What I found is that with making so many maps and working on it for so long, I've sort of fallen out of love with the world builder. There's a lot of things I can do with it, but it's finding inspiration to keep going. And the more tasks that I've taken on, the more favours that I've done for people, the harder I'm finding it to actually find inspiration myself. Maps can take anywhere up to 25, maybe even 30 hours to create, and when you don't have much spare time, that's a pretty heavy investment. But now that I have someone working in the sidelines with me, it's a lot easier to get things done, and that's exactly what we'll be doing. So we'll be working on a set of maybe 2 or 3 maps together. If you look at maps like Citard, which we worked on together, it's now I think 3rd place in the workshop. It's one of the most played maps there is. We'll be looking at bolstering that with a 3v3 and a 2v2 map, as well as, probably the hardest part, a 1v1 map as well. So we'll be trying to do different things, working together. It's gonna take a matter of months because we both work a lot. But it's looking hopeful. There'll be some new projects on the horizon, but they will be a lot slower than before. Maybe a bit better quality, but a lot more infrequently. On that note as well, I've got to send apologies and a bit of a note out for the Southern Boys and Rewind, or what's left of Rewind. Projects are coming. In fact, what we've been looking at, me and Mirage, are looking at trying to do exactly what you guys wanted. Now, the Southern Boys asked me specifically to make urban maps, as many urban maps as possible, especially in the same vein as Red Ball Express from Company of Heroes 1. And Rewind wanted to try and work on very specific map layouts, so that it causes very challenging, very competitive gameplay, even on large maps. You look at some of the other maps that are released with Company of Heroes 2, the larger they get, the least competitive they are. The 1v1 map's pretty competitive, but when you get towards 3v3, it loses everything. It's always down to whoever has the most units in some cases. So we'll be looking for strong design, very strong replayability, as much competitiveness as possible. So it's going to take a long time. Big process, but once it's done, hopefully it should be spot on. So I'll give you random updates on that, and we'll see how it goes. But there's one little bit I wanted to add to this. Like I said, it's a bit of an irregular update, and I have been doing something in the meantime. Over on the Indiestones forum, which is the creators of Project Zomboid, I have created my first map for them. Now, Project Zomboid, for those of you who don't know, is an isometric zombie survival game. It's an RPG, it's very roots, it's still in early access, but it's an absolutely phenomenal game. The atmosphere is superb, survivability is key in comparison to just zombie slaying. You are portraying a real person, everything down to hunger, stress and panic, as well as minor illnesses and infection. They're all key parts of the game. It's brilliantly designed. It's got a lot to offer, and everything gets added to it every Monday as we go along. On top of that, the community for it is superb. Maybe small at present, but what the community offers in terms of feedback for maps and the beta releases is absolutely stunning. They are brilliant, and I would definitely recommend to go and contribute to them if you feel interested in that type of game. Again, I'll link their forums, and I'll link the game on Steam at the bottom of this video. But the map itself is called Phoenix, based on an industrial complex. It's taken a long time to get there. The maps are huge by comparison to anything I've worked on before. And although the world builder itself, or their version of it, is quite difficult to use to begin with, now I've got into the swing of things, updates will come out more frequently. So Phoenix is in pre-alpha 0.2, it's got a long way to go. But already the community have been nice and supportive, they've pulled it up, and hopefully things will go quite well. So that's it from me for now. My apologies for being kind of so distant. There will be more video releases hopefully in the future. Old projects like rebuilding Viasma will come back as soon as I can get the swing of the world builder once more. And all updates from me and Mirage when we're working together will filter in as well. We'll give you screenshots, videos, just to show you what's on the horizon. But until then, I've been MonolithicBacon. Please check out the rest of the channel. Rate, subscribe, have a look at all of my maps as well if you fancy it. If you want some new challenges, there are 25, maybe 26 of them out there now. So, see what you think. But until next time, keep mapping, have fun, I'll see you soon.